So this is a music review, and it's going to be Sign of the Times, the 1987 release by Prince. But before we get to the album, let's have a brief synopsis of this man, this musician, singer, songwriter, producer, actor, dancer, filmmaker. Yeah, it could go on and on and on. He was born Prince Rogers Nelson on June the 7th, 1958 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was the son of a jazz singer, Matty Della, who became Shaw, and pianist and songwriter John Lewis Nelson. And all of his grandparents hail from Louisiana. Prince was given his father's stage name, Prince Rogers, which his father used while performing with his mother in a jazz group called the Prince Rogers Trio. So that's how that odd name came about. I could go on at great length about a very early part of his career, but let us just get to the point where he wrote his first song, would you believe, when he was 7 years of age. But let's move forward a little bit now and get a picture of what happened in the late 70s. In 1975, he became involved musically with a cousin's husband, Pepe Willie, and this involved some writing and playing guitar. And this led to him making a demo tape, and then a local producer heard about him, and this producer, Moon, his name was Moon, got a management contract together with Prince, and this then led to him getting a contract with Owen Humsey, a Minneapolis businessman, and this led to the contract with Warner Brothers prior to the release of his debut album, For You, in 1978. That sounds a little bit messy, but you get the gist. That music was very much an integral part of his life. Now, without going into too much detail from there on, let's get to the point where we're going to do this review. His career jumped up considerably with the release of the 1999. That was his fourth album in 1982, and he became a mega superstar in 1984 when Purple Rain was released, and at that point he had the New Power Generation as his band, and of course that album also was made into a film, which led to an acting career debut for Prince. Was critically received and a highly successful piece of work. So, approaching this album, this man, a guitar virtuoso and a multi-instrumentalist, was, apart from his recording material, he became very famous for his flamboyant live shows in the 80s for those highly visual videos, and also for his explicit lyrics. Prince was very much a sexual man. His image was one of charged sexuality, and so that then brings us up to the release in 1987 of the double album set Sign of the Times. Now, this double set, for many, is viewed as the pinnacle of his career. I'm not so sure about that, but I must concede it's a breathtaking collection. It's a double set, as I said, and the album forever will be historically linked with the AIDS epidemic at the time, and this is implicated considerably in the music and the lyrics, and also at that particular time was highly prevalent in the music and movie industry, so its relevancy can't be overstated. So let's get on to the tracks on this album. Track 1 started off with the title track, Sign of the Times, and it's a slow, funky, crunchy rhythm that opens the album. There's an early reference to Rock Hudson and the AIDS epidemic. Of course, Rock Hudson was the first famous person who it became known to the public had contracted HIV and latterly the AIDS virus and had died as a result of it. And this brought it into everyone's front rooms. The title track puts you in pole position really for the rest of the album. And there's a skipping drum bass mix that really is hypnotic. Your head nods as the funky guitar, sparingly played by Prince, creates this noise between your ears. And the images from the words bombard the dance-drenched sound. I can hear a little bit of Jimi Hendrix influence in the guitar, and of course later recordings clearly stamped a view that he was highly influential in Prince's ability to play the guitar. But on this track it's more of a delicacy. It's got some neat percussion as well towards the end. And as I say, the focus of the lyrics is about the AIDS virus, but also about living for the moment, because you just don't know what's going to hit you round the corner. And it references fun, dance and rock and roll, and live a day at a time in your life and try and make it free-spirited. Up next is Playing the Sunshine. This is a complete contrast to the political message of track 1. It starts with sirens and kids playing in the street, and then horns coming, and we launch into a speedy, pacey, arena-like funk rhythm. It's a few revs up, certainly, and a very happy tune. The backing vocals complement Prince's lead tremendously, and then the wailing guitar with feedback, and lots of it. It's furious, and we get frantic. I noted an influence of Zappa in some of the inspired keyboards that we hear from the band, and Prince goes on a guitar speed freak like roll, and then it slides into a lullaby like section with odd vocal noises, which is quite remarkable. There is a marimba in there, and then it segues into Housequake, and this is really George Clinton inspired, and Sly Stone also. This is real funky soul with jamming and horns and wacky vocals, and with use of the chant motherfucker. It's Afro-American ghetto music, that's for sure, but it's fabulous. There's some style drumming which I like, and those wailing horns, and there's also a sort of synth style to the drum, and also a slight impersonation, I thought, of James Brown from Prince towards the end. Lyrically, well, it's about having a good time. It continues from track 2, and it uses your home to reverberate right. And Prince refers to the excitement of dance, very much so in the 60s, where reference to Chubby Checker via the twist. It's a real celebration of the movement of dance, I felt, and the have a good time theme is littered throughout the lyric. Next up is track 4, the Ballad of Dorothy Parker. It's a real Sly Stone influenced smooch, although when it starts you think it's sort of out of tune, but that was deliberate to really slow things down, and Prince delivers it effectively. It's really a bit over the top though, and the harmony vocals are whoppy like. Its mood is lavish with the bass washing up on a beach. That's the image it created for me. Very lush filled. The lyrics, well, he does acknowledge Joni Mitchell briefly in the lyric, and we are aware that Joni is a big fan of Prince, or was before his untimely death a few years back. And it's a tale of a waitress who seduces him in the mind when he visits with his current beau, and her comment and wit relates to a character, Dorothy Parker, which was a real person in the 20s and 30s, who worked for a New York magazine apparently, and had a tremendous ability with words and a sense of humour, a talent in spades with regard to the witty comments. And Prince is basically commenting on this type of partner is what he dreams about, what he would really like. The combination of humour, comedy, and physical attraction. And the music is very much about a strong, confident woman as being necessary for him. Track 5, It, is a cracking, soulful blues. It's all about sex. It's a confession about sex. Sex being always in your mind. There's some fierce guitar representative of the height of passions, and it's a smoochy powerhouse of a track. The electronic spacey drumming is very aggressive and very sexual. It's power pop soul really, an arena favourite, with the stripped down sound assisting. But as I say, it's about the male obsession really, with regard to the sexual act, and wanting it all the time. Starfish and Coffee, track 6, is a personal favourite. It starts off with an alarm clock, which ignites a beautiful ballad with sumptuous harmony vocals and lush arrangements that are a touch back in the mix. The piano is musical to say the least. I love the piano rippling to match the vocals. It's refined, not overindulgent, has a hint of his jazz passion. Lyrically, it relates to a school ritual and a star pupil in the classroom, with the chorus, breakfast, starship and coffee, maple syrup and jam, butterscotch clouds, a tangerine. Strong nods to McCartney and Sergeant Pepper, I thought. We can all remember those stars in our classes, of course. It's a great song, and the layered voices particularly strident. So that's track 6, Starfish and Coffee. Just to add a little about that great rolling piano in the back of a mix. It's really accentuated with the beautiful feminine harmony vocal, and then that little intricate Hendrix type solo right at the end. Truly marvellous. Up next, Slow Love. I wrote down Blues Ballad. It certainly starts out that way. Top drawer vocals from Prince, and the horns, well, they mesh in with the piano driven riff like hand in glove, and there's a burst of horns repeatedly just to crank up that sleazy atmosphere. And I heard a touch of Gershwin thrown in there to boot. The guy's at the top of his smouldering best on this one, and there's a lovely trumpet that squeezes out that last drop to create the imagery of sex at the right pace. It also just has that audacious jazz swing throughout. It's just fantastic. Perfect. Hot Thing. Well, it bursts out onto you. And well, it's another song about sex, I guess. But here, it's energetic, it's funky. It's basic, simplistic, and effective. It turns up a notch on 2 minutes when the horns slide in, spurting out. And then there's a glorious extended sax piece that litters your ears, and the percussion, power throughout, really. And then it turns into a sort of jazz fest, a bit of a jam, really. Heavy funk jazz style. What a combination. Lyrically, well, it's a new date, this one. A likely physical encounter. It's laying the groundwork. It's getting ready for you-know-what. Forever in My Life. Well, this is different, certainly. It's got a slightly strong bass line until the vocals come in, and it really is a vocal track. Fritz obviously controls that part of the song, and they're really interesting as he juxtaposes the chorus over the lead vocal. And then we get a third layer coming in, dubbed of course, but it's like a little vocal montage. The chugging beat is consistent and nothing particularly elaborate about that, but it was the vocal delivery with these this montage that fascinated me. And then just to cap it all, there's a neat little acoustic guitar that drops in at the outro. What's it about? Well, it's about the time when you start to think that it might be ready to settle down, to stop playing the form all the time, jumping from one to another. Let's get into something settled for the future. Next up is You Got the Look. Well, this was a huge hit, and quite right. It's got a solid drum intro, and then the rhythm hits you, and you want to get up. You want to get up and dance, and the synth really sets up the duet with Sheena Easton. It's magical when she comes in on the chorus, and there's that wacky lead guitar solo, power pop with a funky edge. I like the obscene guitar solo shrieking in the background at the outro as well. Well, it's self-explanatory, really. The eye contact, the communication, the desire, that special impact. You walked in, I walked in. I woke up, you woke up. That's called telepathic communication. Terrific. Next up then, If I Was Your Girlfriend. There's a church organ that sets up that chugging riff, which swings in with a neat bass line, Sly Stone-like. And then a sort of pain-ridden vocal from Prince. Maybe not pain, but certainly urgent vocal. It's funky, it's smouldering, it's effective. There's a great melody on this track, and the vocal is plea-like with tender harmonies as well, mixed in. There's a clever use of spoken narrative towards the end, and the keyboards provide a solid base to the vocal extravaganza. Prince's storytelling at the outro, and there he tries to persuade the girl to give herself to him. Lyrically, I thought at the outset he was sort of exploring his fantasies that he'd like to carry out with the special girl, and that he would test that out. And it's also shared with not just girlfriends but best friends, and of course soul mates, and that the fact that you want to do certain things that are unique and special, and he seems to be going through a sort of Q&A to get permission to do this. Fascinating track. Track 14 on Sign of the Times is Strange Relationship. It's got a really jaunty rhythm, funky, catchy, smoochy, you take your pick. It's got a mix of keyboards on top of that, with that oozy bass that makes this another gem. Lyrically, I think it's an apology for poor behaviour by males towards a girl who deserved better. Then we move on to I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man. This is just a terrific, fast riff, and it's a catchy riff as well. And Prince's singing is on top of that guitar that makes it an instant sing-along. The stabbing short guitar bursts are memorable. It's fun, and it conveys a musical fare atmosphere, as the lead solos just cement a sound that encompasses all the strong points about this disc. Then the bridge hooks into the improvised psychedelic phase with a sort of jam-like feel, a live feel in fact. And the guitar virtuoso extraordinaire takes over before ending in the last half minute. It rejoins the beginning in the last half minute. Lyrically, it's about staying mature when a girl has good things to say about you, but not necessarily 100% genuine. Don't get carried away, particularly if she's been hurt before, because she probably carries a bit of baggage, and you really can't substitute for that lost love that she's experienced. The Cross is next, and well, where do we start? For guitar buffs, this is your real McCoy. The solo guitar starts us off, then the chords come in and leads to the passionate vocals of a rock ballad, and it smoulders with an eruption of vocals, heavy guitar and drums to boot. It envelops your senses into an irresistible rock sound with guitars, sitars and hordes of percussion. Well, not sure what it's about. It's obviously got religious connotations, and it's maybe a sort of message that even if you're submerged in problems, at the end you'll be able to bask in God's acceptance, and he will take on board all your issues. Penultimate track on the album now, It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night, is a live cut, although there was some studio touches added to it, but genuinely, it's Prince and his band sounding like a horn-blowing, funky George Clinton band. It's a hair raiser for sure, with high octave harmony vocals. A bit Bee Gees like, I thought, with trumpets and trombones in stride. Prince's first flirtation with rap as well. It's 9 minutes or so of letting your hair down. There's also some funky manic piano thrown into the mix. It's just about having a good time. Tonight, the closer then, and what a track to close out a double album. It's called Adore. The vocals here are sublime, straight out of a soul songbook from the 60s, with restrained Otis Redding horns, just to add an extra layer of appeal. There's a mix of high-pitched squeals and the low tenor encapsulating a truly enriching vocal experience. And there's the sax back in the mix just to create additional mood. Prince's conglomeration of vocal styles is a montage of all that is great about soul and R&B black music. It's a sumptuous, intoxicating mix of vocal alchemy, with a divine trumpet in the background near the end. And lyrically, well, it's just a love song about passion, desire, and fulfilling your fantasies. So that's it then. That's A Sign of the Times. It's my #1 album for this year, and it's an absolute gem. It's possibly a good place to start with Prince. However, I prefer to start at the beginning and work your way through. But because of the catchiness of some of the songs and because of the quality, it may be a good place to start for new listeners. Having said all that, the man is a genius, a musical genius, and he's got such a tremendous group of musicians behind him that there's absolutely no chance that this was not going to be a hit. It's a fantastic piece of work. It's called Sign of the Times, and it's by Prince.